Then let's get it on for the last time. 2022 NASCAR coverage on Prime Sports NASCAR. And, of course, that means not only is Eric Smith here, but CJ Radoon is back once again. CJ, we can't get rid of you now.
I'm like a bad plague, maybe. Some kind of...
It either means it's the beginning of the season or the end. And that's what is happening. It's the end. So... a lot to cover. You know, I tell you what, let's kind of get it out of the way. And I don't mean in a mean way, but you know, the whole Ty Gibbs situation. It's incredible how, and I don't think this is going to change the drivers' opinions on Ty Gibbs. Maybe it would have if he would have been racing on Sunday, but. Nobody really cares about Ty Gibbs right now. They'll get revenge on him next year, but you know that was a very unfortunate situation for everybody to have to deal with on Sunday, especially in NASCAR. CJ, it's probably more so in NASCAR. I can't think of another sport where the death of a family member would be that more impactful.
Yeah, NASCAR very much is a family sport, and we say that all the time. You know, a lot of families go and travel to the races, and it's a family event. But actually, within the sport, it's very family-oriented. Gibbs organization is a family organization, and even if they're not directly related to one another, they spend so much time with each other throughout the year that they can't help but be like best friends, and they arguably spend more time with each other than they do their own families. So they become their road family. And this one in particular, it had a lot going on with it because of Gibbs had lost a prior son that was involved. Ty Gibbs had a lot of controversy coming into the weekend, then hits the greatest triumph of his young career to date. And within hours of that, his father and unfortunately Joe Gibbs' son passes away. It's very unfortunate. You knew something was going on because I mean, all the tweets that were coming out, but there was absolutely no news, no announcement. So it was just a matter of waiting to see everything would play out, but totally understandable. And I think you're right. I don't know that it's necessarily going to change anybody's attitude or perception of him on the track going into 2023. He hasn't ticked off many Cup Series drivers, so he's got that going for him. Based on what he's done in the past, I think that will change relatively quickly, though. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, we've got the winter to get over it, and definitely, losing a life, losing a parent, losing somebody from your family is way more important than anything that's going on in the sports world. So definitely feel bad for him, and terrible, terrible timing.
Yeah, Eric, we'll see if this does change Ty in any way. Who knows? But it's one of those things. Look, it's life, and if it happens to you, me, CJ, nobody cares. It happens to a member of, any sport and a figure in the sports world, and for some reason, I think we tend to maybe put more weight into that, and maybe it's not fair to the rest of us because we value our deaths in our families just as much as they do, but it's just the way that it is, and we'll see how that goes again, like I said. But I think overall, as far as, and I don't know, first before I turn to the racing, I just figured maybe I'll give you an opportunity to comment on that.
Yeah, and like CJ said, it's a family sport, and where this differs from a lot of other sports is you don't have a lot of owners or front office members' kids playing for their sports team. It'd be like in the NFL, like an owner or the GM or their kid is on the team, and the owner or GM or somebody in front office just tragically passed overnight, and so it was a very solemn mood. And I remember texting you. That like, hey, Ty Gibbs or Coy Gibbs' dad passed away. I'm gonna text me Sunday morning that, and it was weird because I remember getting back to the media center, just trying to get ready to get my race stuff going, and we were gonna do a show, and then I see get a report that his car is still in the garage, and I'm like, well, what's going on there? And I'm gonna mingle over there, one far from the media center, and you just start seeing the looks on people's faces, and it's like, something isn't right here, because I was getting comments on social media, but Ty Gibbs won't race today. I found that out, and a lot of people thought, oh, was he partying too hard the night before, which I get. People think, like, hey, he won the championship, because I even wondered, why are you racing the next day? You just won a championship. He's 20. He says he doesn't. I'll take him for his word. He's a big Christian, as we talked last week. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do anything crazy like that. He just said he would do the photo shoots and go to bed and wake up and race, and partying's not in his DNA. And the Gibbs family doesn't seem like that way anyway. So I kind of took it for stock. And then to hear that he wasn't racing, like, well, that's weird. What kind of family emergency would happen where they're all here? Why would you not be racing? And then you start seeing the move. Then you start hearing. And then I got a text from a random number. I had no idea who it was, telling me the situation and what happened. And then I'm standing next to Bob Pockris, Fox Sports, and the cameraman walks over and he tells the cameraman the same thing, the text message I got. So I'm like, okay, it's let it be legit. That I got it, he's got it. And at that point, then you're like, well, what's going on? What are we doing? And you start seeing drivers kind of shuffling in and out and get fitted for seats. And then you start like, when are we going to announce this? Like, it just, unfortunately, like I said all along, it's kind of had this dark cloud over the playoffs. It's like, we're in the championship race, and here's another story that's going to take us away from this on track. And like we were all talking amongst ourselves, it's like, all right, we all know what happened, but we're not going to be inconsiderate and just go back to media center and like, Joey Gibbs died. Like, let's let them announce their own news and we can run with it. But noon became one, it's getting close to race time, and then they finally announced it, and it's like, it was just a weird situation. And Noah Gragson, oddly enough, I saw his helmet sitting there, and he was one of the drivers in the running that might have drove that car. And I thought to stand in to tie this into how drivers race, I'm like, man, he just called him a douchebag not even 24 hours ago. That's kind of a bad PR stunt. That the guy that has been speaking so against him is going to drive his car the day his own dad died? Like, what? And but come to find out, Daniel Hemrick fit, because it's all it was calling announced that will help here, because there was like a bunch of seats sitting there, and they had to find a driver similar stature to Ty Gibbs, or that at least could fit in for what they were doing. And I think it goes to show that Noah, even after what he said, he was friends with him before, that people have to soften their heart. They feel bad, but then when he's strapped in the car, I'll be curious next year. Does this change Ty Gibbs?
Yeah.
How much does this change Joe Gibbs racing? I didn't have it in the heart to ask in that moment on Sunday. This is probably more of a question next season. Is, like CJ said, JD was supposed to take over the organization when Joe stepped away. Well, he passed at the age of 49 a few years ago. Coy was next in line. Coy's going to run things. He tragically passed at 49. So who is next? Or is there a next? Does Joe Gibbs just can't – does he eventually – like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's got to be hard. While the charters are going for what they're going for, does he eventually, like, look, I don't have a successor. This is a family business, unfortunately. Maybe I need to get right with the rest of my family because I'm gone a lot. And maybe he sells. We don't know. And so why does this affect Ty Gibbs? He doesn't have his dad. He doesn't have his uncle. Sure. How close is his grandpa going to be? And it's got to be hard for Joe, because that's what I was saying. We're focused on granted, Ty, but he lost his son. It's 2 kids he's lost in 4 years. That really the only one left in the racing is his grandson. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions for the future of Joe Gibbs Racing, too, that I think it's too early probably to go deeper into that, because out of respect to that family. But those are questions that I think would be relevant next season as the charters agreements are going to come back up. Is it too much? Is it too hard for Ty to show up to the track knowing this weight of used to having your dad there, your grandpa there? And it's just going to be a weird scenario for him when they show up for the Clash.
Yeah, and then how do the fans react to Ty too?
You know? Yeah, because he was getting a lot of boos. There were no cheers for him on that show.
Nor should there have been.
Yeah, and I guess the change to go to racing can. I almost want to call it. And I like Denny. I like Chase. I like Noah. Where's the payback? They had every opportunity. It seems to me they're all taught. Denny said he was going to get Chastain how many times? Martinsville never did anything. He could have ended that real quickly at Martinsville. Chase was mad at Chastain, had 2 opportunities, did nothing. Noah could have drove it in deeper for Ty. He kept saying he wanted to, but he could have if he wanted. So that was kind of led us a lot of discussion with like the Loganos of the world and Ty. Like, these people vowed paybacks against you. Your aggressive driving style won you championships. That's kind of NASCAR now. Nobody paid you back.
Well, Justin had an opportunity as well. I mean, you know that he had no chance unless he did something, and he did nothing.
Nope.
He could have easily wrecked Ty, and nobody would have said anything. He could have said, "Get out of the way."
Nope. And even at the end, and I was listening to Scanner. I went outside for the pits for a little bit during the Cup race after the Chase and Chastain incident, and Bell and there's a couple other drivers that were kind of behind it were already being warned. Chase is slowing up on purpose. He's coming back to Chastain. It looks like he's trying to. They were all being warned. Just heads up, there may be payback ahead of you. You might want to not. Drivers are being told this. Chase was asking on his radio, "Where's Ross at? Was this my fault? Is this something I did?" And he was being told that you didn't do anything wrong. Like, they were kind of buttering him up. Chastain was warned. I flipped over to, what they're being told, what's he being told? Flipped on his channel. Hey, Chase is kind of backing up to you. Just be aware. Just be aware of your surroundings. And he didn't do anything. At the end of the day, he didn't do anything. And it just seems like all season, Hamlin with his list of drivers that he's going to pay, nobody did anything. So other than Bubba Wallace and Ty Gibbs, that's about anything. Anybody did anything. So I think I get it, the championship. I'm like, man, all right, here we go. We're gonna have something to talk about during this race because it was a Joey Logano show and the other 3, and here we go. This is gonna change it. Nothing. Maybe Hamlin's gonna get his payback. Nothing.
Yeah, didn't we see, CJ, like, wasn't that the theme of the weekend, was the utter domination by each winner? And I know we got to go back again next year, but can they please just realize what they just saw, and enough of this Phoenix stuff for a championship? No more of this. Nobody wants to see this. That was terrible. That was like one of the worst races of the season, and it was the championship race.
I told you. I told you, in an unpredictable season, the thing that is most predictable is what's going to happen. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I was thinking during the race, both of them actually, why do we have it here? If second place cannot even come close to be able to try to make it exciting, it's just running down the laps. Why would this be our championship race? Like, where else could we put it? Where would be, not so much of a toss-up that it's a complete random draw, but, there's some skill, there's some teamwork involved. I guess the only thing I came up with, which is the best kind of consolation prize, is that for Phoenix to be the championship, it really proves that it is a team sport. So the team had to set up the car properly. They had to execute on pit road. They could not make any mistakes. The guys who lost every single championship this weekend made mistakes. Yep. And it couldn't catch up. And that's to me, that's a championship. Now, the on-track product was crap. It was boring as hell. And I agree it's got to move. But if you're going to call yourself a team sport, I don't think there was a better championship weekend to demonstrate it than this weekend. So that's the silver lining that I'm taking.
Okay. You could try and find something like that. No question. But yeah, and we've said it before, it's not just the drivers. And I know the drivers stand up there with the trophy and all, but it's the driver and the team, and you can't win without the team. And Chastain had the best pit crew in the world until it mattered the most. And even Ryan Blaney's team, once again, I don't know, did they all flock to Logano for the last race? Because all of a sudden, after having a really good run, all his pit crew needed to do was have a good day. And I think Ryan Blaney wins the race. Ryan Blaney had the best car. Ryan Blaney should have won the race.
I don't know I got challenge more. I'd be curious Eric, if you heard anything being there.
If what? Big challenge?
I'm surprised Blaney didn't challenge Logano more.
He tried. He was pissed. I saw him get out of his car, and because everybody's focused on Logano doing the burnout, and Blaney was parked right there. And he got out, and I noticed like he climbs out and looks pretty mad. I'm like, And he like threw his helmet back in the car and just mad, was shaking his head, and he looked like kind of like first like, oh man, I better be a team player here real quick. It's like he looked. I mean, he was pissed, and then he looked at because he was literally parked right in front of the Logano people celebrating, and he looked up and he's like smiling, gave him a thumbs up, and then put his hat on. It was just like doing this. And he got out, and he was mad. He said, I always should have won. And Penske gave them the green light because if Blaney won, it wasn't going to affect Logano.
Sure.
And actually, Penske preferred Blaney to win because he wanted Blaney so bad to get a win before the end of the year. And they were getting, I was listening to the radios, it's like, man, Blaney's getting kind of close. Like, they can't battle here because we've seen at Phoenix, if they battle, it allows the car behind to catch up.
Yeah, Joey would have had to just let him go.
Yeah, and that was what he was kind of told. Don't fight. If he's going to get you, he was being told he's got a faster car. It's just he can't pass. That's the problem. And Blaney said that, just track position. You can't pass. I can't get to him because he said his car would just get either tight or loose depending on the turn. When he's getting close, I lost the handle. I couldn't push it any farther. And his side, he was so afraid to push it farther and risk getting in a wreck himself and bringing out a yellow. And now all of a sudden Chastain's lined up on the front. So he was like, it's all I could do.
So that's a really good point because if I remember correctly, coming off of the last turn, Blaney was sideways and hit the wall.
Yep.
So he
knew then, yeah.
He couldn't make up that gap, and that's exactly where he just hovered. And so I interpreted that as he's being the wingman, and he's just holding there to be able to, if Ross Chastain comes up, because Chastain had the faster car at that point, he's just going to try to play defense for Logano. So I assumed that was what was happening. But you're right. Off of that last turn, he was in the wall coming to the line.
Yeah, because he said he thought because he knew once they took the white, his mindset was, I can charge because ironically enough, it worked. If I wreck, the field's frozen. It doesn't matter. Joey wins the championship. I'm going to push it hard. I'm not going to wreck him. But he's like, it's just the byproduct of it. I mean, I think you could say Blaney had the better car. Probably had, and the other thing, like CJ said too, it's the better cars won the championship in the end.
Oh yeah, there were no rip-offs or gimmicks or anything.
But, and then I thought the same thing, like, man, is this a great way to end the season? I felt like it's a good team aspect here. But where else are we going to have it? Because Homestead was a dud this past year. Martinsville for 99% of the race was a dud. You can't go to a Daytona or Talladega. You can't end like that. And then you got to start thinking just NASCAR-owned tracks. They're not going to give it to an SMI track. It's not going to go to Vegas or Atlanta.
So what would they be? Give us the tracks.
Let me look here. I got it. Because that was one of my...
While you're looking, the only two legitimate contenders while I was thinking about it that could possibly step in, and I don't know who they're owned by right off the top of my head, would be Bristol or Martinsville, in all honesty.
Bristol is SMI, and Martinsville... Okay, here we go. I got it. Yeah, Bristol's SMI. Martinsville could. So you got Daytona, Homestead.
Okay, so
Phoenix.
Daytona they're not. Homestead, like you said, that could be boring.
Yep. Phoenix, Martinsville.
Out of that group, Martinsville is at the top. Go ahead.
Yep. Richmond, but it could be too cold there. Same with Martinsville, though. I guess they're not too far apart. Talladega, Kansas, Darlington, which would be kind of run like Homestead, which you're never going to move the Southern 500, so it'll never be Darlington. Watkins Glen, which is upstate New York.
Forget that now.
And Michigan. That's it.
Michigan. How was the racing at Michigan this year?
Better, but
would it be cold?
You're going to race in Michigan in November. Then you're dealing with delays.
So it's Martinsville. Is it Martinsville the best out of that group?
Yeah, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. There is one more. It wasn't on it because they were doing it. It's Fontana. I think Fontana you're going to throw in the mix. Fontana's like a Michigan, but they're redoing it to a short track after next year.
Well, that could be intriguing if that works out.
Here's what I think: rotate it. Phoenix.
That's what they should do.
Fontana.
Yes.
Those are your four.
Why is that such a hard idea to come up with? I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, and they want to end too, which makes sense with Phoenix, and which would make sense for Fontana, near a big market, Phoenix, LA, big markets, and weather. You want to go.
We
somewhere
understand
where
the weather.
worry about. So Phoenix and home.
But really,
and
even when you look at Phoenix, I got to be honest. When you got that view, it's like this place is like this is the site of a championship race. I mean, they're what do you call it?
Sand Hills, what they call them.
Yeah.
There you're going. Sand Hills. Yep.
And I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just it doesn't. I think that if any regular or novice fan tuned in, they would not believe that this was the site of a championship race. There's just no way. It does not look like a championship setting. I'm sorry.
Well, and knowing what we do we have to run 312 miles to get to, like, can we just run a 200 lap race?
Well, that's true too. If it's going to be that boring, yes.
Yes.
I will say the one thing that I applaud, it was not the championship four and everybody else for once. It was finally a true Logano was up there in the front, but it wasn't like Logano.
Oh yeah, because Blaney could have won.
Briscoe was up there. It was finally a race that it was an actual race. It wasn't the championship four in their own zip code and then everybody else was battling behind. So I do like that factor, but I don't like it in a sense that we're at the same track every year because you could get an advantage. It's
got to stop.
Way. Yeah, rotating around would be fun.
Has to stop.
Like a Final Four, like a Super Bowl. I would venture to say with Fontana getting.
When does that start?
So they'll race there in February, and then they'll start construction to move it to it's gonna be a short track.
24.
24.
Oh. So they're probably going to race in 24, and then you wouldn't even make a decision for 25.
You'll probably want to see it. Well, I don't know. Phoenix, when they got that reconfigure, they kind of had. They said the 24 schedule is going to be radically different again. So
that better start with no Phoenix in the championship race. Don't call anything radically different if you're going to put Phoenix in the championship race again.
I think what you do is you rotate the venues, the four, and the years that they're not, those are your round of 8. And you just kind of how like the football, how college football, like the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl will be the semifinal games, and then
haven't we gotten though in college football? Thank goodness they're making that change. Aren't we at a point now though, where it's time to have more drivers in the championship race? Just 4 drivers is just not enough. We need to have 6 or 8 drivers in the championship race. Why not? I mean, I don't understand. Why is it 3, 3, 3, 1? Why can't you let more drivers in the championship race? That would just be a lot more exciting. And it also, like we talked about, the drivers who are not in the race, give them big bonuses. If you win the race, you're going to get $1 million or something like that. So this way, you really want to try to win the race. Make it exciting for every driver that's out there, meaningful for every driver that's out there.
Yeah, because that way, if it's somebody other than Ryan Blaney in second on Sunday, maybe they do push it a little harder. Because Blaney, I get, that was a situation as a teammate. But if that's Truex or somebody, hey, I'm getting $1 million to get by this guy. So, I'm glad the right people won. I'm glad it wasn't some fluke where Logano did what he did and then lost on a late race restart. But I also think a lot of his thing too was he had the best pit stall. He had the best qualifying. It goes to show it's a carbon copy of last year. Kyle Larson, the exact same thing. You should know if you get to Phoenix, you need to focus first and foremost on qualifying. Get the number 1 pit stall.
Boring.
And then keep track position.
That's all.
And then that's sale. So,
by the way, can they do something about? I don't know what they're doing next year with qualifying. I don't even watch it anymore. I hate I just hate the whole system of the qualifying. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's just I prefer the way they used to do it. Just get one driver, whoever's fastest. I prefer that. I don't like this new thing. I just don't like it. It's just because you're not going to get faster. So I don't get it. Why don't you just let's go out there again, or you're going to go slower? Because I just don't like it. It just doesn't. It's too confusing. It doesn't need to be confusing. Just go out there, run a lap. Whoever's fastest, you're on the pole. That's it.
Yep, that's why I'm the same way. I do not like the 2-round qualifying split groups, and then the fastest. Yeah, just do it like the Xfinity or Truck Series. Just do one round. Do it in the order of the owner's points if you want. The last of the owner's points, so you get an advantage by being the point standings leader, I guess you want to call it, and you get to go last. But yes, just get it over with. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm sure if you ask the drivers, they'd rather just give us 30 more minutes of practice and we'll start.
Yeah.
Line us up by points. We don't care.
Yeah. All right. So all in all, it is what it is. You know, there wasn't great racing, but concluding the season, congratulations goes out to Eric for rebounding after CJ kicked everybody's ass last year. Eric came close to dominating like CJ did. CJ just pulled a sweep of everything. Eric hit. The only thing you didn't win was the picks. I barely hang on for you on the picks, even though we're all in the negative. But that's going to happen in NASCAR. That's why we have the futures, by the way. I want to explain that to everybody out there. The reason we have the futures and we love the futures is because it gives us an opportunity to make money in NASCAR, even though it was a lot easier to make money this season than last season. Now the question's going to be, now that we know that and we have that information in our heads, will anything change next season to kind of screw us up again? Because if that happens, then, you know, we need a little bit of like a normalcy to, you know, so we can have averages and things like that. Because if it does go back to, like you guys were saying, well, now there's more information and the better teams are going to end up, it's going to kind of go back to the way it was a little bit. So if that happens, you know, who knows? But again, you know, I tend to think that we might still see a little bit until now. I think it's going to be until it goes back to being 2020 and earlier. I'm going to look at 2023 as the way it was in 2022, meaning more wide open, more chances for some long shots. So I don't know what you guys think, but, you know, I mean, we have time to figure that out before our fantasy picks next season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the new car definitely threw a lot of things for a loop. And back to the qualifying conversation, I think the format that we're on for qualifying was designed for the old car. I think you got a new car now where you can start 25th and you can make changes in the race and race your way up to the top 5, top 1. Looking at the picks, though, you're exactly right. I mean, today or this past season was so wide open. I still got 20 out of 36 races and still ended up everybody. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yes. You had the most correct picks and you finished last.
Any other sport, you pick that percentage of winners out of a season and you're making money. And NASCAR is you make money from, but the future is where you got to get those guys early. And I like your approach with it being wide open at least on the futures aspect. Definitely learn the lesson to make some big picks early in the season versus waiting for it to go on.
Yeah, because you're a little bit more of a, you're not as much as a risk taker when it comes to your picks.
Right.
But 20 out of 36, you're talking over 50% of the time you're winning racing. You're winning your picks. You're getting a correct pick, and yet you still ended up minus 1750. Now, when we add that with your futures at minus 1750, you add over 3,000 on your futures, so you made over $1,300 this year.
And the reason why is because I moved quickly on Logano, not as quickly as Eric, but once I saw that Logano was building up some momentum, I moved on that really quickly because I knew the odds were going to come down, and they sure as heck did. The odds for the last race were incredible. And what were 3-1 and then
3-1,
two to
yeah,
one.
Everybody was 3-1. That's ridiculous.
There's no way you can make up on the futures in that kind of situation. You've got to get them early in the season.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see here. Pretty much Well, there was a gap there where you didn't take Logano for a while.
It wasn't until probably the last third of the season.
Yes, September 6th.
There you go.
And then it was, and then you hit it a few more times after that. But you at least had him early enough too. So it's not like I mean, I didn't have him at all until I forget when it was. Let's see, I did not pick Joey Logano once until I'm still looking. Where are we? I'm into September now. September 28th. That was the first time I put money on Joey Logano.
End of the first round.
And he was 6-1. And so I knew the only way, and there were some weeks where it was like the only way I could make up was if I only had Logano and a driver or Logano, and I barely got my money back, which I did. I lost $350, but I would have lost big if Logano didn't win. And Eric ended up 7,300 on top on the futures. So even though the picks were at minus 15, Eric, you winded up over close to 5,000 on the year.
Yeah, I went back and looked. I pretty much hammered Logano from week one. It looks like.
Are there any unique historical kind of whammy jammy trends like Logano this year that we need to keep an eye on for next year?
Well, that's what I need to look at. I mean, it just felt like it was the trends are every other year. So that tells me he's not going to win next year.
And he does have he does not have the 23 car next year though.
Nope. And he has never made a championship four in an odd number year.
There you go.
But the other thing is the regular season winner or champion wins the championship in the odd number year. So whoever looks good early, then the regular season champion wins the odd number years. So that gives us about 10 weeks to once the champion of the regular season's crowned. That gives us 10 weeks to pile up. All in that guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think with him, the reason I went with him so much was, I mean, he started off 12-1. I'm like, well, that's the past champion for all those trends. When we're sitting there from our first show, I'm like, I'll go 100 his way. And then he only went to 100-1. And I'll go again. And then 11-1. Like, I'll keep at it. And then it just seemed like he was always 11 or 12-1. I think he even dropped like 15-1 at one point. So
yeah. Besides that 5-week stretch where the only thing you did was put money on Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
And there were other weeks after that you just put money on Kyle Larson.
There is July 25th, 15-1. I was like, I knew he was 15-1 at some point, and I went another. I'm like, it just baffled my mind.
Well, the only thing you didn't do. The only thing that stopped it from being perfection was that you didn't believe in much. You didn't believe in yourself enough. If you would have believed in yourself a little bit more, you wouldn't have hedged your bet as much as you did. You really hedged your bet a lot.
I did, and I could have went more all in. I played it too conservative, but
you still made over 7,000. So
yeah, and if I would have believed in myself more, I found the week that August 8th, so we're at August 15th and August 22nd. So we're the 3 of the 4 final weeks of the regular season, and he was 20-1 to win the championship.
Yeah.
And that's when I should have probably went more in on him, hammer him at 20-1 even more. But I just thought it was the same thing. Like, and Blaney was 15-1. I just, in a year of unpredictability, to be handed a guy at 20-1, and I kind of had that gut feeling all year. It's like I should have, instead of spreading it out as much as I did, I should have just made it do it 2 or 3 drivers at the $100 wager and really, instead of throwing that other money away, he would have got even more bang for my buck on him.
Who was it? It was, I think it was John, I believe, one of our viewers. John, that he went ahead and put money on Christopher Bell at 100-1 when we talked about that. Why is Christopher Bell 100-1 at Martinsville to win the championship, and yet he's 12-1 to win the race? When all he has to do is win the race, and he's got a 25% chance to win the championship. And so John took advantage of it. He put $25 down. He had $25.50 on Bell, but then he made sure that he hedged his bet, which again you have to do. You know, there's a difference of how much you hedge your bet, but I'm glad John hedged his bet because he should have still made some money, I would hope. And John was also became our first viewer to donate money to our
Thank you, John.
Yes, to our channel. And so we thank John DeRosa for doing that, and also Mark Simmons. Also, Mark said he commented, "Amazing NASCAR videos all season. Thanks for all the great work." So we appreciate that comment and that donation, Mark. And if you don't know what we're talking about, all you have to do is check out the thanks icon on the bottom of the video, and then you could donate from $2 to $5 to $10 to $50, whatever you want. And the reason why we ask for that is because that gives us an opportunity for a whole bunch of different things, including, especially for this particular channel, of this particular show, a couple of things. One is, as we said, we're trying to expand to F1 coverage, full-time IndyCar coverage. In order to do that, we need some more funding, but we're working on that. And then also to do things like we want to do some more live programming, where we do actually like a live show where we're watching a reaction of watching a race. That takes a little bit of time and commitment from our analysts, and I want to make sure they get compensated for that. And doing some additional shows live on location. I know Eric goes to a handful of races a year. CJ, when was the last time you were at a NASCAR race or any race?
I go to a couple of IndyCar races each year. Eric stiffed me at the last one.
Yeah, I forgot he was there. and it's a bad thing I forgot because you were there for a good reason.
I was, yeah. But I go to NASCAR races on occasion as well. I didn't go. Actually, I did not go to a NASCAR race this season. I think this might be the first year that I didn't go to one, and maybe I don't know. Well, I guess pre-COVID. I'm not counting the COVID years, but maybe 4 or 5 seasons. Usually hit at least one.
There you go. Now, as far as the fantasy team, it was Eric took control of the last month of the season and ran away with it. And that's, again, because Joey Logano was the man. So Joey Logano. So you had Logano and Chastain. So you had the two drivers in the Final Four, and you get to gobble up all those points because of that, especially with Logano winning the race. And then don't forget Chastain, as we talked about this year. That was actually your first transaction of the season, acquiring Ross Chastain after the 4th race of the season. So he was still a free agent. Why shouldn't he have been a free agent at that point? Why would we have drafted Ross Chastain? So I should ask, okay, CJ, who do you think could be the Ross Chastain of 2023?
Oh my gosh, good question. Very difficult to predict, but I can guarantee you that Ross Chastain will not be an undrafted free agent.
No.
Thinking through
somebody. So yeah, who do you think could end up not being drafted? That could be the surprise. Could it be?
Well, we haven't talked about it yet, but perhaps somebody in the Petty GMS stable with Jimmy Johnson coming in as team owner. Perhaps maybe somebody from RFK. So Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, Eric Jones, or Noah Gragson. I would put those 4 in that potential category for 2023.
All right. Well, Jones will probably be picked, I would think.
Most likely.
So Gragson, I'm not so sure. And who's the other one?
Buescher and Keselowski.
Oh, Buescher or Keselowski. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe not. Buescher, Keselowski, and Gragson. What do you think, Eric?
Buescher was the first one that came to my mind. I think RFK ended the year really well. So I was thinking him or we'll see about Briscoe. I thought he might be drafted. If not, I think
he'll be drafted now after the way he ended the season.
And then my other two that came to head, first was Buescher. That was the very first one that came to my mind. Allmendinger.
It's possible. How about Harrison Burton, who finished strong?
Turned his season around. You're right. He might go undrafted. I drafted him early this year because I thought he had potential, but he didn't turn it on until the end of the season. No. But he definitely turned it on. He came around. He got his legs under him, so he could be another one.
I'd say my other one, and he doesn't even have a ride yet, but I think he's about to get it. Ryan Preece.
Ryan Preece. Come on now.
I think he's the chatter was he's going to end up replacing Cole Custer
and take it potentially make it all the way to the Final Four.
He wins in almost every good car you give him. So I'm curious. The reason why I think will he make it that far? I don't know.
I mean, was he? Because the question is, was he? When you looked at Chastain coming into the season, as far as his history, as far as his talent, is Ryan Preece on the same level as Ross Chastain was when the season began?
I think you can think so, and they have a similar parallel path. And remember, Chastain took a chance on himself, right? He could run a full-time season in Xfinity with JD Motorsports and just kind of be there, or bet on himself and go to a 3-race deal with Ganassi and just see if it works, then great. If not, then this is career suicide. You're never going to get it right again. Well, it worked. It was an unlikely path. I know there's a lot of twists and turns between there, but it worked. Well, Ryan Preece, similar thing. He was in modifieds. He was kind of running. I think he was a teammate with Chastain, if I'm not forgetting right, or if I'm remembering right, with JD Motorsports. Similar deal, modified driver, kind of just there in Xfinity, took his money to Gibbs for a 3-race deal, worked his way through the Toyota camp, got with JTG, which wasn't a great team, wasn't a bad team, but not a race-type winning team. He's taken a step back like Chastain did. Okay. And from what I hear, it sounds like Tony Stewart badly wants Cole Custer out and Preece in, and I keep hearing Custer, if this all goes, again, this is all it's not speculation because it's chatter I'm hearing, that Rick Ware Racing's an alliance team with Stuart Haas, that they would house Custer there for a year. And then Kevin Harvick, like we talked about, I don't get a good feeling he's coming back in 2024. And then Cole Custer and Ryan Preece will all be on the same team. They'd just move him back over. All right. So they want to give Preece a shot. And Preece, when he ran trucks for DGR Crosley, which is like a satellite Ford team in the trucks, he won. Mm-hmm. When he hops in the Xfinity kind of cars with them, he takes a 15th place car that's an afterthought and gets in the top 5. So I don't know why any of us going into that. Here, I'm talking this, and now we probably will.
Sounds like you might actually end up drafting him.
I say, now that I talk about him, I ended up taking my last pick. Now, I might just have completely negated your question, but I guess for a capable driver like that, I would say he's going to be one that if he truly does get that 41 ride, nobody's really going to be talking about him early in the year. And then it will just come out of nowhere, I think.
Hey, look, I think this is definitely when the season begins. I'll be throwing money on 50 to 1 or higher drivers to win the championship. Yeah. I would never have done that before, but
nope.
Not that they might not win, maybe even, but all they have to do is get there. And now you've got at least a driver there, or maybe 2 with some big money that you can use the rest of your money on other, maybe more capable drivers. And then what about Justin Haley?
Justin Haley, I almost said, actually, in addition to Petty GMS and RFK, I think Colleague is the next group to look at because they've been very consistent in the second half of the season. Justin Haley has been a consistent top 15 guy. We talked about him. I don't know if it was last week or some other time.
Last week.
He's really reliable. Yeah. AJ Dinger, he only started 18 races, but he had 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s. So I'd be and road courses being more heavily weighted on the schedule now. I think AJ Allmendinger might actually be drafted next year. So I think Haley would be the one that might go undrafted. That could be a very big shock if he's able to improve what he's done, because it's just going to take a little step, maintain what you got this year, take a little bit of a step forward in the off season or through the winter. You're a top 12, top 10 kind of guy, and that puts you in position to win races.
And are there any, by the way, does Ty Gibbs get drafted?
I don't think so.
Interesting. Okay.
I'd have him in my back. Same with, I agree on Haley, because I thought about that. And Haley was in my mind of, we're filling out like the 7th driver. We're at the tour. If he wasn't drafted, I thought about because he's just your Mr. Reliable guy, like we talked about last. Like, he's not your guy. I mean, he could win you a race or 2, But he's also the type of guy that he doesn't tear up equipment. You don't see him a lot of times out of the top 25. So it's like you need your bottom part of your team. You need playoff drivers, but you also need your bottom just to get you steady 10 points here, 5 points here, 10 points, just constantly building your. He's that guy. He's like the definition of your bench guy in sports. They're like, I need a guy to come off the bench, give me like 5 points a game.
Who are his teammates at Colleague next year?
Allmendinger.
Oh, it's just Allmendinger and Haley. Where does Gregson go?
Yeah.
Petty. And who's teammates with Jones?
Gregson
and Jones.
And Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah. Okay.
Jimmy Johnson for a few races.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
which is, like CJ said, it's a great tool to have. You got a 7-time champion as a teammate for some races.
Sure. Why not? And Hunter Nemechek, does he get a ride?
Probably Xfinity. Probably with
Full
Gibbs,
time?
I think. Yeah.
Is he? I know he tried it before and things didn't go well, but now it's different. Is he somebody to keep an eye on?
I think if it's a situation, I would say, yeah, he's been very, very quick in the trucks, different level of competition. I think if he gets in the right situation, in the right car with the right team, he can definitely be dangerous. So John Hunter Nemechek, I didn't know, with Busch moving over to Richard Childress, if John Hunter Nemechek's relationship was more with KBM or was it more with Gibbs? It sounds like
Toyota. Yeah.
Yeah. So Toyota guy into Gibbs makes sense.
I think it kind of shows with the writing on the wall for him, because there were drivers that were assigned like Toyota drivers and some were KBM and then some had reins to go. And if you look at how the silly season that series kind of all played out, a lot of the KBM drivers have all landed elsewhere or followed either KBM or like Chandler Smith moved to Colleague. But John Hunter's the only name not mentioned anywhere.
Yep.
And you notice Gibbs said last week, before this whole tragic situation, they weren't going to announce. They were going to announce the Cup and the Xfinity plans after they had drivers. They didn't want to mess with drivers going for the championship, which would be Ty Gibbs. And so they're not going to announce him moving up yet, but they can't announce John Hunter, from what I've been hearing, as Gibbs' replacement until they announce Gibbs isn't. And so that's why you really haven't heard anything about John Hunter, just because that's too good of a driver to be sitting on the sideline. So I think he moves up, and I honestly think he's in a good situation because after talking with Truex too, he might be done after next year as well. And so you can put John Hunter in the Xfinity series, and then when Truex walks away, there's your replacement right there. So he's not in a bad situation by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's the right path. You want a good top seat, maybe just stay with that Gibbs and Toyota stable, and then when Truex steps away, which Truex to me is going to be a guy, again, after talking to him, he might be a championship threat next year. He sold me talking to him in Phoenix and point out more times than not, he had race wins on the table that they personally let get away. And Joey Logano, that year that he won the championship, I believe the year before he missed the playoffs. Well, Truex missed the playoffs. He might be the one I hammer early because I bet you might get good odds going to Daytona for somebody like that didn't make the playoffs this year.
Well, which one of the which veteran drivers are nearly done? You said Truex is one. Who else? Harvick. How many more years
Denny.
for Hamlin? He hasn't said?
2 to 3. I bet he's probably, he's 41 already.
Okay.
And with him owning the team, I've heard FedEx is kind of going to scale back here soon. So I could see him running a couple more years to where he's at and then moving to his new team. Just kind of Almirola. Yep.
Almirola. And how many drivers does Hamlin's team have?
2 right now.
Are they going to be 3 or just 2?
They want to be eventually.
So it's still going. It's just going to be. So it's going to be Bubba and Gibbs.
Reddick.
Oh, Bubba and Reddick.
Yeah.
Where is Gibbs? With Gibbs.
He'll be with Gibbs. Yeah, he'll be in the 18 car.
Oh, that's right. Kyle is. Where's Kyle again?
Richard Childress.
Childress.
Okay.
See, he's going to be one with coming out with Reddick did good in that car, and Kyle's mad. Like, he's obviously hurt, so he might be out for a revenge tour next year. And sometimes when Kyle drives that motivation, he's tough to stop.
Yeah, Kyle will end up. Who do you think is going to be the odds-on favorite? Because taking a look at the championship odds last year in the preseason, Larson was 3-1, Elliott was 5-1. So those are and then you had Hamlin and so forth. So who do you think should be? Are we going to see the same two at the top, Larson and Elliott?
I think it's be Larson, Elliott, or Hamlin. One of those three.
You agree?
Yeah, I think they'll throw probably Logano in there just because he's coming off a championship, and I think Vegas is probably like, we're not going to mess with this guy again. If a lot of people cashed in early and mid-season, so I think you'll get better odds at the beginning of the year. I don't think we'll see a 2-1, 3-1. I think you'll probably I could see Larson, Elliott 4-1 just because of how Larson ended. And I think your 5-1 grouping might be Logano.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see those. There's so much parity that I think you're going to, once you get past those first two, I think you got to spread it out. I think you're going to.
Yeah, I'd be 7-1, 8-1. I think that's why I think Blaney, the value early, I think is going to be Blaney and Truex. I think you don't
think Blaney will get overvalued?
No, it seemed like all year he was around 12-1 and 14-1. I think, what did he start last year? 11-1, 12-1, something like that. So I think he'll be kind of in that same boat. Harvick into the year really good. I mean, he's running top 5 all day Sunday. So if he gets 15-20-1 like he seemed to be housed in all year, I think I would capitalize early on him too.
Yeah, Byron was surprisingly 8-1 when the season began. I don't think, even though he had a strong season, I don't think we're going to see him at 8-1 again.
No, I think he'd probably be that 12-1 to 14-1 group.
I would think so. Because Logano has got to be up there now after winning the championship. You got to move him up.
And I'm curious what Bowman's going to open up as.
Well, he was 18-1 last year. I don't think that's going to change much.
No.
18 or 20. Yeah, for me.
I agree. And then Bell was 20, so he's going to move up to probably 10 or 12, you would think.
I would agree with that.
Yep. You can make a case Bell's probably Gibbs' lead driver now.
Yes.
Because Truex, you don't know whether he's going to be back 24. Hamlin's getting older. He's still never won a championship. Bell's only 28 or 27, and Gibbs is going to be a rookie. So, I mean, one could make the case that, I think if you're getting a lead driver for anything 10-1 or lower, I think you got to capitalize.
Reddick was 30-1, and Chastain was 70-1. So, Reddick probably somewhere around 15, 12?
15 came to my brain.
Chastain?
I bet he's 12, 10 or 12. I'm curious. Well, and the other one, too, I guess, speaking of Chastain, is Suarez. I wonder what he's going to start off.
He was 80. So.
40?
Maybe. 40, 50.
Yeah.
I think I would say he's a case for a breakout driver next year. He's in a contract year. He kind of bet on himself here, which I don't know. That's a risk now because he's going to have to win multiple races, I feel like, next year. You just saw what Chastain did in year one, and there's going to be some free agents out there. It's a strong free – Bowman's a free agent right now after next season. So, silly season might be wild next year.
So, hopefully – and I know some of our viewers have already commented on that. Hopefully, everybody either you're with us for the whole ride or you were at least with us for some of it or most of it, because if you were, you should have cashed in the way John did. Because, again, Eric, who's been with us, our lead analyst full-time all season, had Joey Logano as his championship pick all season. So –
and CJ got to 20 wins.
And CJ got to 20 wins. They did with
their money on the fantasy 20.
Yes.
Before we move off fantasy, interesting topic, I thought. Let's just say the season starts tomorrow. Who's your first pick?
I was wondering that. I don't have an answer for you.
I was thinking the same thing. I was wondering if CJ was. I was like, who is the top driver right now going into the next season? Will we think would be the top pick? It's hard. That'd be I don't envy your decision the first thing.
It was mine because I knew it was coming, and I'm like, I don't know. I got to think about this because I don't know who it's going to be.
It's a tough call.
Wow, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I think doesn't it have to be Larson, Elliott, and someone?
It's Larson, Elliott, or Hamlin because they're going to be the favorites going into the weekend. But which one is the best? Which one's got the better shot?
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
I would think it's got to be Elliott or Larson.
I don't know. Hamlin had probably the best season he's ever had. He got screwed out of not getting to the Final Four.
Yeah.
But he only had two wins.
Yeah, he didn't race well. But how many slipped through his fingers, though, too? How many was he got knocked out? At least 3.
But you drafted Elliott last year. He had 5 wins.
Yeah.
He went to the championship, and then you don't take him this year? That would be gutsy on your behalf. Because he did a pretty good job for you.
It would be. He was consistent, but I mean,
I see what you're saying with Hamlin, though, because you do wonder, especially since Larson's won and Elliott's won, and isn't it? I mean, come on. Isn't he overdue to win a championship? Come on. If there's any driver that's overdue to win a championship, it's Denny Hamlin.
And how frustrating. Like Busch has got something to prove going into 20.
But he can't be a top pick, though. No way.
No.
Yeah.
But Hamlin's got something to prove
He does.
as well. I put him in the category after this year.
Elliott concerns me a little bit too. Is it's like, how much is he going to go up? And it's not going to be as much parity, but I think within the big teams there's going to be a lot of parity, and it just seems like I could tell his dejection after getting out of the car. It's like, how many times are you going to get to the championship? He's like Hamlin. He won his one. Hamlin, I know, hasn't won, but it's like I felt like this year for Elliott should have been. Granted, nothing against Chastain or Bell. They've never been here before. It's a fight with you and Logano, and it just feels like when's Elliott going to get that second? Like, what more does he need to do? So, yeah, I don't know if I would choose Elliott first. I'm with you. I don't know if he's – let's just say you choose Larson and Greg, you go Hamlin. I don't know if I choose Elliott with my pick. I might go Logano or Blaney or somebody like it. You kind of got to position your guys of who could go far in the playoffs and then obviously get the championship floor the way the points are structured. If you got a guy that's can win Phoenix and win the championship, and you're already kind of in the mix in our fantasy, you're probably going to win the fantasy thing. So who is good at Phoenix? And Elliott kind of just proved again this year.
Blaney just proved he's good at Phoenix.
Yep, he's real. That's a good point. If Blaney somehow wins Martinsville, we might be talking about Blaney differently, right? Blaney could have won that champion. I mean, Blaney had a car that could win that thing. So he's one I feel good too. Was it 3 of his last 4 years he's made it to the round of 8? It's like it's
getting close.
Maybe next year's his breakout year. Maybe he gets the championship. I mean, there's so much parity. That's what it's good that we're talking about it. We just wrapped up the season a few days ago. We got another season, a fresh slate. All the drivers are available. And we don't even know who that tells you the parity right now. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be that the first round pick was Truex, Harvick, and Busch. One of us was going to get one of those. Now it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and there's no preseason, so
nope.
It's just thinking. It's just time to think and see if anything, because nothing's really. Can anything possibly change your mind or dictate what your pick is going to be between now and then? No, right?
No.
Just time.
No.
It's just time. That's it.
And honestly, nothing's going to dictate the way the season's structured. Gosh, I mean, probably till you get past the West Coast next year. I mean, you start off with the Coliseum. That's not going to be a precursor. I mean, I guess this year it was. Logano won the Coliseum and he won the championship, but Daytona doesn't give you anything that's going to necessarily like, oh, that guy looks good at Daytona. He's going to look good this year. Then you go to Fontana, which is really nothing else. I mean, just like Michigan, but really nothing else on the season. Then you're on the West Coast again. So is it Phoenix?
Yeah, I don't know. The lack of a preseason, like going back to LA, is very scary to me.
Yeah.
Because I know Logano pulled it out, and looking back on it, yeah, okay, maybe that makes sense based on how he ended up finishing the year. But again, you come back there this year, it resembles zero other track.
No.
There's totally different format. It was a totally new car this year. I don't think that tells you anything. I don't think Daytona tells you anything. You might get a little bit out of the West Coast races, but I completely agree. By the time you really have to wait again until you're back on the East Coast again or back into the traditional tracks after the first 3 or 4 races of the season before you have any idea of what's really going to end up happening.
I guess it depends on what they also talk about regarding the changes that they're going to make to make the cars safer, and what that might do to change the setup at all. And will it?
It won't be that, but what it will be is they allowed all the manufacturers to submit like improvements to like the front end, the rear deck lid, the hood is going to be that because they've been approved. So from what I've heard, all the submissions that the manufacturers did to, hey, we want to, because they do that. You go through a year and, hey, the Mustang's going to, or on the street car is going to have this little modification. We like the cup car to kind of look like that. We did some wind tunnel testing. We think it would work. And that's any kind of changes they've asked for, NASCAR's granted. So, and I was asking Kevin Harvick literally on Saturday. I go, hey, unfortunately, you're not here in the Championship 4. This is the spot of the Championship 4 next year. Could you use this weekend, punt on anything you want to do as far as winning, but use it for data for next year? And he said, honestly, it's a good question, but no, because the changes that are coming for each manufacturer is going to actually change. He goes, it's probably all going to change again. So that tells you, hey, that might help parity, or does that help the big teams know that these enhancements they're doing, they're going to have the resources to get to from development to track quicker than some of these small teams?
I think we're going to find out pretty quickly, because if in the first month of the season we see all the top teams are winning, or the opposite, we have all parity, then I think that's set. I think we know what's going to happen then. I think we'll know. I think we'll know right away. I don't think we'd have to.
I struggle to think that we'll ever have with this car until 4 or 5 years down the road and we fully get a grasp on everything. I think the worst case, you're still going to have parity among the big teams. I don't know if we're going to be able to separate this guy, like the big three, how it used to be. I just struggle to think, because there's a lot of talented drivers in the sport still, right? I mean, there's so many names that I just don't see anybody just dropping off the face of the earth. I think it's still going to be, your Gibbs, Penske's, Hendricks. I think Stuart Haas has room to grow. I think you're going to have parity still among them. So I think that helps. I don't think it's going to be a Logano, Larson, Elliott just run away with it and they're going to combine to win 20 to 30. I don't think we're going to see that. So that's a plus. So
before I let you guys go, any particular, and you have time to think about this, but I just, while I have you on the air here, any particular changes that you think that we should incorporate within our fantasy rules? Anything that you were thinking along the lines and saying, I wish we didn't do this, or I wish we could have done that?
I don't have any changes, but I do think my strategy changes as a result of what Eric proved this year, and that you got to go for the playoff guys. I think I went into this year drafting who was going to win most races, similar to how Larson did the year before. But I think the way with the parity, I agree. I don't think we're going to see anybody run away with 10 wins. We're going to see 5s. We're going to see 4s, and it's going to consolidate a little bit more. But the fantasy winner is going to come from whoever is able to advance and get the job done in the playoffs. So that changes my strategy. I wouldn't necessarily change the rules.
Still easier said than done.
Absolutely.
With all the parity. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. I 100%. That's how I did my team. I looked at baseball plays the regular season one way, and it seems like the playoffs, their system may get you 80, 90 wins in the regular season, can get you there, but you're built for the postseason. That's kind of how I'm like, I want playoff drivers. They're going to go through slumps. I get it, but I want playoff guys. And I think that strategy is probably the way, and not being afraid that your bottom guys, because I started doing that towards the back end of the regular season, is switching them out for maybe track specific. Maybe like I picked up Buescher and he picked up for me, and then I dropped him, and then I picked him up again. It's like I think that kind of strategy with that parity, because you might find lightning in a bottle. Like Keselowski was up and down, but you could get him for the the super speedway races or short tracks now.
Well, let me ask you: do you think that we should have one substitute driver?
That
wouldn't be bad. Yeah,
somebody that you could just decide. Yeah, this week I'm going to race him, and I'm not going to race this guy this week because this is just not a good track for him. Sort of like what they do with,
good idea.
Yeah,
like a fantasy football. Yeah,
I like that.
All right, we could think about doing that because now there's more depth. So I think we can add that, and there'll still be a good amount of free agents still available. Whereas we couldn't think of doing that last year or the year before because once you get past a certain amount of drivers, who cares about the free agents? They're never going to win. And that's just not the case anymore.
Because you got to think because you got to think too in this league, we're not necessarily after some of those guys are talking about. Are they going to win? Maybe not, but we're looking for a bottom of a bench to get you some.
You could go after a road course driver.
Yeah,
he's my road course guy.
I don't think you're off base by having one or two because you got to think there's 3 of us, there's 7 full-time drivers. It's only 21. And there's 36 drivers in a week, so you're leaving 14 sitting there.
Well, let's not go too deep into 36.
No,
we're not drafting BJ McLeod.
No, I'd say the top 30 because if you look at the top 30 in points, they're all pretty relevant. I don't think a driver or 2 on your bench that you can swap out would and make life a little easier than trying to play the waiver wire. Like who's out there? Because that was kind of my strategy going next. Like, I'm just going to drop my bottom guy each week, and if there's somebody better, because you can always, it kind of regulates it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was for quite a while, I went from being in last place for like the first half of the season to then being in first place for the next quarter or so, and I had a lot of opportunities to play around with. My last driver stunk. I kept trying to pick up guys. I had so many different waiver wire pickups. Ricky Stenhouse, McDowell, Keselowski, Haley. I couldn't figure out who to grab. So, I was able to grab Bubba Wallace and Bell. So that just shows you that there still will be quality drivers that might have you got Chastain, so you never know.
Yeah. You really don't. That's what we're going into. We named 5 or 6 drivers that could be the next Chastain, and they're all solid options. Like you literally, and those are all guys that will be the very back end of our draft.
Yes.
So
they will be. Yes. All right. So as we conclude, CJ, again, thanks for doing this, even just part-time, and hopefully we'll get some additional funding where we can turn you back into a more of a full-time guy. Definitely looking forward to seeing if we can do that, especially for F1. And because F1 compared to truck, and could you do truck and Xfinity as well for RotoWire?
I do.
Which one do you which do you enjoy more, truck, Xfinity, or F1?
Oh, Formula One, hands down. I've always been, as a kid, what really got me into racing was IndyCar and Formula One. NASCAR was later on in life. Love NASCAR, love racing, period. But Formula One, especially with the new car changes that they've brought in, made it a little bit more competitive, except this year Max Verstappen ran away with it.
Again.
Nonetheless, it's
okay.
Competitive. He didn't run away with it last year. But, yeah, Formula One for sure.
Okay. And then so right now is what F1 season still going on?
2 more races. We got Brazil this weekend, and then Abu Dhabi will close it.
And then what do you do for RotoWire during what do you do during the off season?
I enjoy a break.
I hear you.
I enjoy about a month of no activity.
I hear you. It was actually nice this week. I was going, and I'm supposed to be doing something. It's like, oh, that's right. All this time that I spend on the NASCAR stuff. It's like, free. I don't have to do any of because all it is meticulously. I got to put these points together, and it's like every week. It's I understand. It's not writing articles, but it's still, it's time consuming. So I can use a break. Eric, great job as always, especially with the website racereviewonline.net, and again being the big boy on the block this season. So that means I have to put up next season because you guys have dominated the last 2 years. So But I need, but you guys should dominate because you're the two analysts. You're the top main guys. So I'm glad that you guys are dominating. So at least I made it competitive. That's all that matters. And what are you going to be doing during the off season?
Taking a little bit of a break. I start once it gets to December. I'll start pre-writing some stuff for Daytona and just getting because I do that all year. I work ahead just so I know what's coming up ahead, and it just gets so much going on in the span of a week. It's hard to. All right, I'm just going to only ride Daytona this week and the week up.
Sure.
It's just. So I usually start working ahead, but I'll probably do that. I'm going to take a few weeks off.
So fans, when should they know is a good time to check the website out again if they just kind of lose sight of it for a little while?
Yeah, I'd say after Thanksgiving, going to Christmas, I'll still check it out weekly because there's things that happen. I mean, there's sponsor announcements. We know the Ty Gibbs news is going to be coming at some point, so there's always silly season stuff. So yeah, I'd say instead of like 5 or 6 articles a day that seem to crank it out, if you check it weekly, you won't miss anything because I'll still cover the new breaking news and stuff that comes out. But luckily, thank God, most of the driver announcements and stuff are done where I can unplug for a little bit because it seemed like the last few off seasons, it just so much was happening. There really wasn't a time like, man, I just could use a break from not focusing on the driver announcement, but most of it shored up. So, it's good to get a break for a little bit.
And if anything does happen, anything major newsworthy, we will definitely cover it. So we're not going to just hide until February. And then at some point, if there isn't anything major going on, then check back definitely at some point. Or look, this is what we say all the time. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel. That's the main thing.
Yep. Go get it.
Because then you don't even have to worry because whenever there's something that's available, it'll pop up right there on your video screen on your YouTube account. So check that out and be sure that we will be back sometime for sure doing some sort of programming. I would say definitely in January. Not sure when.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'd say 2 months. I mean, it's the shortest off season in all the sports. I mean, literally.
Because you got the holidays. The holidays make everything go fast, and all of a sudden it's January, the first week of January, and it's like, oh, wait a second, next month is the Daytona 500.
Yep, and then you got the Clash at the very beginning of February, so it creeps up on you quick. That's where the holiday. It's where the season when it ends, and I'm glad it ends before. It used to end like right before Thanksgiving. Now it's a few weeks earlier because the industry kind of shuts down for a few weeks, and then it really cranks right back up. So and then usually January you get some media day. The drivers start becoming more like, all right, we're in the new season. So.
Oh, by the way, and the other reason to subscribe too is because we're going to be working hard on trying to get these interviews set up as well, because that's the other step of what we're trying to do for the programming is to increase, whether it's the press conferences that we always do for Indy, maybe even more of that for NASCAR, but definitely interviews, one-on-one interviews, see if we can book them because the off season is the best time of year to do that. So, hey, we get several interviews, IndyCar, NASCAR, we're definitely going to get that done and we'll make that available. So that's another reason to subscribe. So.
Yep, and then any donations so we can send CJ to Vegas next year, around this time next year to the F1 race.
There you go.
Hopefully,
absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to do a live reaction video though with you guys. That's what I wanted.
3 dates next year. We got Vegas, we've got Austin, we've got Miami. 3 Formula One races.
Vegas would be the fun one, but I saw rooms are going for like $50,000 a night. So we need some subscriber money that we could get CJ. I had no doubt in my mind we could get CJ approved for credentials, but I don't want him sleeping in the Vegas desert because God knows I don't know where he'd sleep, but we can get him there.
The sidewalk will work just fine.
Oh, there we go. You heard it here first. CJ will be covering Formula One race in Vegas next year.
Well, maybe you can add that to your behind the scenes, having a little behind the scenes video action going on. That might sell itself. So,
that would.
Guys, appreciate it. CJ, like I said, thanks for doing this, even though I know the reason you do it only part-time is your busy schedule. So thanks for putting in, especially the last couple of weeks of your time.
Thank you for having me.
You got it as always, CJ. How long have we been doing this now for?
Oh my
Time
gosh.
flies, man. I know it's. I was thinking once about a show I was doing, the horse racing show I do with this with on my channel, and I can't believe that I've been doing it like for over like 10 years. And so I don't know do we go back that far? It's possible.
It's over 10 years. Yeah,
It's crazy.
it is 10 years. I can't remember exactly right off the top of my head. In fact, I have the Daytona credential on my desk from when we did our first show together. When I was in Daytona, I can go and look at that, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
I guarantee over 10 years ago, though.
That's awesome. All right.
Very well.
It goes by fast. Rick, you've been here for what, 4 years?
Yeah. I remember one of my first shows was Elliott and Hamlin. Was that 17, 18 in Martinsville?
Okay.
Oh,
so that's how many years it's been. I don't remember what year that. Oh, you know what? It's 2017.
Okay.
It was when my middle child was born, because that was the year it happened. Because I remember watching it we just got home from the hospital watching the race. So
5 years then.
Yeah, so 5 years already. Wow.
See, it's crazy.
goes fast.
All right, guys. Well, another 5, another 10. That's what we're shooting for, and it's going to be even better. So looking forward to it, and we'll talk to you guys at some point. If not in the next 6 weeks, then definitely in 2023.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Take care. And
Yeah.
most importantly, thanks to the viewers.
Yes.
We appreciate it, and we'll see you guys in 2023.
Sounds good.